Okay, so I just put together a real simple, and this is kind of barely anything, but I'll show you kind of the difference. So go from one circle to the other. I think it fits a little bit more to have the camera move through the shape. So if we go through to two views here and we zoom out, our shape layer is right there in the middle, and then you can see that the camera is gonna go back and cross in front like that. So, and then there's also this optics compensation, which you can see kind of stretches the circle a little bit and then closes it back down. So it gives it a little bit more ramp and a little bit more depth by adding a little bit of distortion. You could even, honestly, now I'm just thinking about it, I bet a turbulent, oop, yeah, turbulent displace on top of this could be kind of cool. So we'll move that size down quite a bit, bump up the amount of turbulence, make it a little wobbly here. Pro tip, adaptive resolution is helpful for speed. Kind of low reses things while you're live moving through it. You can see how it makes it a little bit lower quality. So I'll bump this up a little bit just to get a bit of turbulence. And so then what I'll do is I'll keyframe this. We'll have a look at, probably keyframe it here. Then starting here, we'll be at 0. Whoop, don't do that. 0. And then once we get to here, 0. And then we'll select these and easy ease them. Where is it at? I always do, there's a way to do it by right clicking. I'm just going to use the F9 shortcut. If you hit F9, it'll automatically easy ease the keyframes. So that looks kind of cool, except it's almost a little bit too much. So what I'll do is scrunch this down a little bit. I don't know, you can play with that, see what you like. But I'll run through essentially what's going on here. So starting out, you've got your white background, pretty simple. Throw a little shape layer in there, nothing happens. Throw another shape layer in there, which you can't see because this shape layer is right there. So it's really far in front. So we've got our first shape layer, that one there, and then bump the camera on, and our camera is going to move back in front. I added a bit of noise so that way there's just, even whenever you're going to have a second of black screen, but I wanted a little bit more texture, even though it's just a couple of frames. And we'll go through like that. And then you also add in some of these. So I did the optics compensation. I added some motion blur and then this turbulent displace on top. So we'll have a look at what it looks like with everything together. So that looks pretty cool. A little flowy. We can also, let's look at all these. You can hit the U key. It'll pull up all your keyframes so we can see what we're dealing with here. So first of all is the position of the camera. And I don't know if you've messed with curves at all. Curves look kind of scary. But whenever you're doing curves on the camera, you'll notice I'm specifically not just at position, but I'm doing the Z position. If you right click on it, you can see I have separate dimensions checked. So you'll want to do that. And it allows you to control the curves on here. So I just have it to where it's going to slowly ramp in and then heavy. Camera's gonna move really fast during this portion and then slow down for the reveal over here. And then we can have a look at this is the turbulent displace. That's just a simple easy ease. And optics compensation. I wanted that to hit real hard here, and then I wanted it to fall off. So it adds a bit more dimension. You can just kind of play with the curves however you want um, to make it feel smooth, but I want it to be a really nice smooth motion. So using the curves in animation is going to be pretty essential. Um, so I'll walk through how exactly I built this. I hope this doesn't take too long, but we're gonna go right into it. So let's get a new project. Oh, not a new project. Let's get a new comp. So good. And let's get moving. So let's grab this guy and square, white square. God. Always label your layers. #1 rule. And colors are nice. Also, pro tip, you probably don't have white. If you go over here, settings, and you go to labels, you can rename and recolor all of your labels, which is cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and make ourselves a little circle. Red. Pro tip, if you want to very quickly get the anchor point to be in the middle, hold Command and double click up here. Got to select it again, I guess. All right, why are we being stupid? Oh, okay. Oh my goodness, Tim. Okay, delete the ellipse. We need to make our ellipse on a new layer. There we go. And now you can double click with Command. And then if we click on that again, you can see the anchor points in the middle. We go over to align, boom, boom. Red circ. Then we'll make this guy black. 3D, 2 views. Zoom out a little bit. And we're gonna move this guy right here. Perfect. New camera, rocking 80 mil, whatever you feel like doing. It's gonna work just fine. And now we're gonna reselect this guy and move him behind. Oh, not like that. Move him behind our camera. Awesome. So now our scene's pretty much set up. We're also going to create a new adjustment layer. Move that over the top. Yellow. Cool. Okay. So first thing we need to do is open up the position. We're going to right click and separate dimensions. Only going to be animating the Z position. So we'll say from here to 20 frames, add a keyframe, 20 frames, add a keyframe. Select all of these Fn, F9 at the same time, and we have them easy eased. Pull up your graph editor here, and I guess we actually need to apply some new positions. So we'll go to this middle guy here. We're gonna, oh, I don't need to do that, do I? We're gonna delete this guy. We're gonna go to this spot, move it back to where we want the black circle. So we'll stay right about there. And take this dude, want to ramp in pretty fast and then really slow down there at the end. So it'll, nice smooth. Wow. Awesome. And then we'll go to our adjustment layer here, grab some optics compensation, throw that on top. And you can see, if you apply the optic compensation like that, it's kind of stupid. Let's reverse it. And now we can stretch it out like this, which looks pretty cool. So let's uncheck that for a moment and open up the keyframes here so we can position it right about here. I want it to still, right before it starts to like slow down. So we're gonna hit like, maybe like right here. Go to our optics compensation. About 115 sounds good to me. Got our keyframe there. It's going to start out at 0. And then it's going to end up at 0. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, adds a little bit more speed, a little bit more smoothness to it. Boom, okay. But we're going to easy ease it because you can see what it does is it kind of zooms in on the red part. I don't want it to hit right there. So let's select these guys, easy ease. That's a little interesting. So it takes a little bit too long to get through that spot. So what we'll do I want it to ramp up and down very quickly. So let's try something like this. It should be like, and I primarily want it to ramp down a lot faster than it's ramping in. That looks pretty neat. You get a little bit of that distortion. It's very subtle, but you can still feel it. And so that's pretty much it. And then, let's throw some noise on here. You could throw noise on the whole thing. We're going to do this 32-bit noise. I'm just going to do it on the black circle. And let's see. That's definitely way too much, but let's see what it looks like when it's full. Then crank that bad boy down to where you can barely notice it, but it's still kind of there. Just adds a little bit of texture. And then really, if you really wanted to, if you wanted to go nuts, what you could do is create a new solid. Doesn't matter what color. Throw fractal noise over the top of it, and then we'll add some type of maybe like a multiply. See what happens. What does that do? Now that is actually trippy, but what we want to do is we want to mat it to just that black circle, which I should actually rename to black circle. So now the black circle, we'll keep it checked on so you can still see it. And then maybe overlay. Overlay gives it some nice texture. And then you can really, with the noise and the fractal noise, you get a little bit more depth and some of that stretch. And then if you're not a big fan of the color, just uncheck the color noise and you get that black and white. But it gives you a little bit more of this kind of warpy effect. And then you could even say, I only want it to be from, here. Go over to transparency, opacity. Say about here, it's going to go down to 0. So then you end up with a little more depth, a bit more texture. Might make it more subtle if you want. And then we'll throw a little bit of turbulent, if I could spell it, turbulent displace on top. And let's make it go from here, amount, down to, might as well line it up with that keyframe. Down to 0. And, well, can't do that. 0. And then we get a even more variation. And then if you wanted to get real crazy and we wanted to go with some kind of atmospheric type stuff, we could create a new solid layer again. We're going to add fractal noise to this as well. And now the interesting thing is, it seems like it's being affected by the turbulent displace for some reason. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter. We're going to bump down the contrast quite a bit. Bump up the brightness a little bit. Oh, VR fractal noise. No. Regular fractal noise. That's why it was so trippy. And then let's have a look at some of these different options. Turbulent. I feel like cloudy might be kind of, oh, swirly? Ooh, yeah. I like that a lot. Okay, so we'll do swirly. We're gonna bump down the contrast, bump up the brightness, and then we're going to apply a two-tone, or it's not called two-tone. What's it called? You go into color. Is it toner? It might be toner. No, I mean you can. I don't want to use toner. I want to use something simpler. Tint. Boom. 2. So we're gonna map black to, gonna give it a bit, just a smidge blue, or whatever color you want to do. And I'll map this to something like that. Just add a little bit of color, a little bit of texture. Beautiful. And then let's see, we can work through this evolution. And I could keyframe the evolution. A really easy thing to do is if you hold Option and click here, you can see it pulls open this little dialog box down here. You just type in time, and that means it's going to incrementally, I think it's like 1 degree per second. And I want it to move pretty fast, so I'm going to use a star, which is like multiply times 50. So it'll do like 50 a second. Let's see. Still not super fast, so let's try 500. Yeah, like that. Okay, good. Awesome. So now what we'll do is we'll make this like an overlay probably. You can't really see it. So let's try add. Okay, so you can see it in the shape. Interesting. Let's drop down the transparency by quite a bit. You know, I want it to show up in the whites. So what if I did multiply? Okay. Multiply is kind of cool. I actually like that a lot. So let's do multiply. Gonna bump down the transparency a little bit. And then we're also going to add in a displacement map? Question mark? Yeah, displacement map. So you throw let's throw a displacement map on top of this guy. We're going to map it to this guy up here. So now it's going to displace based on that. So let's take from here. We're going to make our transparency that and drop it down to 0. Easy ease. And all together, let's just make it come in later. There we go. Oh, you know what? Final thing, force. The reason you have to force motion blur, you can't really check it on, is because the objects themselves aren't moving. It's the camera, so you gotta force the motion blur. I think you should be able to just honestly leave it how it is, but I don't know. Let's increase the samples a little bit, get a little bit more crazy. All right, go back to one view here, and we'll run preview. It's possible I went overboard on this, considering it's bogging down my computer this much. Obviously, you don't have to do all these little things. Might not make sense creatively, but I figured I'd just throw a little bit of random pieces in there. Awesome. And now, honestly, an interesting thing we can do is I'm going to create. We're about to go crazy here. Um, Actually, let's do this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our black circle and we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to add a radial blur. I don't know what the difference between CC radial blur is. Throw this guy on. Heavens. I'm breaking my computer on 2 shapes. If you end up with a frame render time of 8.3, a way to actually instantly lower that is to go up to After Effects, Settings, and Media Disk and Cache. Empty disk cache. Yeah, I got 396 gigabytes of information cache, so let's just clear that so we can free up a bit more space and it's easier for the computer to find the frames we actually want to look at. Okie dokie. Now I think because it's a 3D layer, I don't think that this actually is doing anything. So we're going to delete it. It's not even going to add that much. This is what it looks like. Pretty neat.